This is Justin Bader, education philosopher, instructional leadership author, former principal, and now director of the Principal Center, an organization dedicated to advancing instructional leadership potential. This is a man with a PhD who's been working in various fields of education for, as far as I can tell according to his LinkedIn, most of his adult life. So imagine my shock when I'm just perusing Twitter one day when I happen to see one of the most myopic takes I've ever seen on access to books for children. Now, this is one of those situations where he started with a point and then it just started to spiral out of control beyond his understanding, and it kind of made him look like an ass in the process. Because he's got a point as far as not pushing your kid too far too fast. If you're encouraging your kindergartner to read Dostoevsky or Chaucer, you're probably setting the bar a little too high. But then, in order to emphasize this point, he says this. Let's say your kid reads many years above grade level, as mine do and always have. Guess what? That just means they run out of books to read faster than everyone else. What's the goal here? How does it benefit the child to pay money to push them even farther out? And unfortunately, this core point that getting your kids to read more advanced books just gets them to run out of books is what he started to really double down on. At several points, he was challenged on this concept because there's a lot of books out there, obviously. And so he started a thread to try to reinforce this point, making several claims that can be easily countered. I'm showing his thread on screen now, so if you want to pause and read it, go right ahead. But his core arguments boil down to there aren't enough advanced and long books for young readers, kids run out of material to read, buying new books is expensive over time, and kids don't want to read things beyond their ken, like adult novels. And even though he was countered at several points in his thread, he, the next day, doubled down, saying no one was able to refute my point. You would think a guy with a PhD would be able to articulate and defend a point a lot better than this. So unfortunately, one thing that he doesn't really do is define his parameters very clearly, so we don't know exactly what he's looking for, so part of this is going to be speculation, but it's still faulty logic, because what he fails to consider is the fact that there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of books that are within this apparently niche audience that he has pigeonholed his children into. And the thing that's really beneficial is that now, in the age of the internet, we have so many resources for finding new books. Look, back in the 90s, when you wanted to find a new book to read, the only things you really had access to were a library catalog and word of mouth. And maybe like an ad in the newspaper. These days, we have apps, we have forums, we have blogs, we have people on BookTube and Book Talk talking about new recommendations. Goodreads has an entire section dedicated to just listing books within certain parameters that you're looking for. You want to find a new middle grade book? Boom! Thousands of suggestions. His strongest argument comes down to the idea that it is expensive to just keep buying books as time goes on. And let's be perfectly frank, not all families are in the same situation. Some families do have to prioritize things like food and rent over books, sad as that is. Fortunately, there is a solution. Libraries are quick, easy, free, and many of them are advancing with the times. There are libraries out there that allow you to rent ebooks and audiobooks. One of the other points that he brings up is that kids don't want to read beyond a certain level, which is nonsense. Children, for the most part, are explorers and they enjoy finding out more about the world. So if you have a kid who's a voracious reader, they will be able to take on more advanced books. I read Jurassic Park when I was 7. I was reading at a college grade level when I was 8. I do not consider myself to be a unique case. There are a lot of other kids out there that were reading on my level. My parents didn't try to stop me with arbitrary boundaries like saying, that series is too advanced for you, it's for high schoolers. So what he's actually doing is he's restricting certain titles because he doesn't feel like taking the time to find out if they're actually worth it or not, possibly because he never read them himself. And with almost 1 million titles published annually or re-released with new editions, there is an unending list of books out there. The sad reality is I will never finish my TBR pile. I could quit my job right now and do nothing but try to read a book or 2 or 3 a day, and I will never finish reading all the books I want to. Same principle applies for kids. There is so much material out there for them, it's actually kind of impressive. Case in point, you see this list that I've had playing the entire length of the video? That is just off the top of my head, what my wife and I were able to think of, books that are appropriate for younger and middle grade kids. And there are so many more examples that you can find out there. This is the result of a 20-minute conversation. And this list doesn't touch anything at a high school level or above. There are so many authors I could list that would keep a kid engaged for months. Actually, hell, why not? Here's a couple of authors that could do just that. But anyway, if Bader still wants to stick to this narrow, poorly defined network of rules that he's apparently not really demonstrating for any of us, there is a simple trick that his kids can do right now for free. There is nothing wrong with reading a book a second, a third, a fourth time. Case in point, I've read Jurassic Park like 6 times. And the thing that is wonderful is when you find a book that just hits you the right way, there are scenes that are gonna just pull you in and grab your imagination all over again. Or there could be small details that you missed the first time you read it. Maybe you picture a scene a different way, or maybe the scene just inspires you to go write something yourself. Unfortunately, even though he did respond to a few other people who properly dragged him, there's not too much more information I can really gain out of anything else that he said because he doesn't really define his parameters. Trying to find out what he's really talking about is more a process of elimination than anything else, because there are so many people that said, why don't you try these books? And he's like, no, those don't count. But why? Why don't they count? Look, as a parent, he does have the job of making sure that his kids aren't exposed to certain ideas. I wouldn't have my kids read anything by E.L. James or the Marquis de Sade. Some restrictions are entirely reasonable. But then to completely dismiss certain books like the works of John Grisham or Michael Crichton because they're apparently too advanced is to do your kids a disservice. Kids are individuals and should be treated as such. And if Bader was talking about just his kids, how his kids read so fast that they run out of material quickly, I wouldn't have much to say. But because he's speaking generally, he sounds like an ass. And that's another problem with his approach. He's just hand-waving any counter-arguments and he's not actually engaging with anything that anyone else says. So if I were making this video to try to reach out to him and talk to him about why he's wrong, he would probably just dismiss me because he's done that to so many other people. Fortunately, I'm making this video because it's funny. His entire ramble just made him look intellectually lazy, not engaging with anything that anyone said on any front, and hand-waving any potential counters. Made even worse by the fact that he doubled down the next day and said that no one refuted his argument, even though lots of people refuted his argument. What he should have done is ask for recommendations for books instead of stamping his feet like he was throwing a tantrum while insisting that everyone else was just being stupid. Part of being smart is being able to reflect on new information as you come across it, but this guy wasn't even engaging with new information. If this is how he runs the Principal Center, then I would question the efficacy of everything that he pushes. Alright, so this was just a quick little experimental video I wanted to see. I've been thinking about doing like response videos for a while, just because every once in a while I'll see a stupid argument on Twitter and I want to respond to it in more length than what I can do on Twitter. So if this was fun, let me know, and I will look out for more things to post, maybe even on a second channel. We'll just have to see how successful this video is. I really just wanted to give you guys something to watch because Iron Flame is taking me a little bit longer than I'd like. It is in the works. Right now the review is about 4.5 hours long, and I should be able to release it sometime in November. I'm aiming for like mid-November, but I'm waiting on some art to come back from an artist, and we'll have to see how long that takes. Shouldn't be much longer. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you guys see a similar ridiculous argument, let me know about it, and I might respond to that in the future as well. And remember, bookworms do not run out of books, we run out of shelf space.